heard of us. You probably know us through our M&A space, our virtual data rooms. We are about secure cloud collaboration.
Hi, I'm Joel from Remarketing, co-founder. Remarketing is email marketing automation for e-commerce and for e-commerce only. We help small businesses to grow sales with targeted, personalized, smart email.
I'm the editorial director at Fathom. Fathom is a travel website for curious and passionate travelers. We provide storytelling and inspirational information that's practical trips.
I'm Cassie Young of the EVP of Client Services at Seal. Seth really started in email about 8 years ago and now provide personalized experiences and email mobile portion on site for publishers as well as e-commerce companies or businesses.
Hi, I'm Riley Connolly. I work for a small tech company called IBM. I run overall digital for IBM Cloud and Watson platform.
And if you ask what I mean, whether this is jazz or rock and roll, his answer will be Boston Mobile.
Yes.
So for reasons I can see later. So thank you. Before I get started, let me say, there's a few folks here who aren't on the panel, and this is a discussion, so I'm not the only questioner. If you have something you want to know, or say, or counter, or add to, please feel free. But one of the things that I want to start with is, by saying email. I mean, I actually think email has kind of had a resurgence, but I'm going to play devil's advocate and say things. I'm going to put things in a sort of contrary, so that any of you can jump in and counter. So the first thing is, email is old. It's old technology. It doesn't work anymore.
Definitely is old technology. I agree with that part. I would definitely disagree that it doesn't work anymore. I think it's always worked. It continues to work. Our clients are increasingly seeing more and more value from an individual email address. I think I was talking to one of the other panelists earlier that the main reason why it's maybe becoming more popular is that there's more resources out there to properly take advantage of an email address.
Why do you say it's more effective?
It's more effective. Well, if you can squeeze more out of an individual thing in general in the world, it has more value. And so in this case, the technology, the services that are available, the knowledge that's out there now, the expertise allows these marketers to squeeze more effectively. I don't know what the word we're putting it, but to squeeze more out of each email address and therefore make it a more valuable option.
I want to say that besides the technology aspect of building emails, to me is, if you look at the digital ecosystem, all these marketing triggered channels, email, banners, social, email have never lost its value from a marketing tactical perspective. Email has, if you look at the way people are using email with the birth of the internet, you can technically say that is aged medium, but from a technical perspective, something that has been always evolving. If you look mobile utilization and consumer behaviors from a mobile device, the technology aspect of the evolution of an email is a tactic. Now we use HTML5 from a technical perspective to enhance the visual UX experience of what that content is. So if you look at the value in researchers and companies like Expedia, even put a price tag on the return investment when if you use an email well and you craft the content, for every dollar that you spend, you have a projected return of about $43 for every dollar that you spend in email.
So, well, two questions. One is, how do you calculate that 1 and 42?
Well, Well, this.
That's a huge, you know.
Return investment from any digital tactic, if you don't have a right business, like a business case or case study, it's something that becomes a little bit more abstract. When you scope tactics and you do it in your roadmap from a digital channel, in marketing, you need to take all these variables under consideration. It's like, how much dollars you have to spend in marketing, what are the tools that you have to use, how does the resource and people that are responsible for the content apply those things, and then as you acquire customers, you can look at, I'll give an example, if you have a specific buyer, and I'm going to use my own self as an example. I am a big advocate of a brand called J.Crew from a business wardrobe. When I first subscribed to that email, J.Crew wasn't expecting me to be a loyal advocate for their brand. So if you look at the behavior from a subscription model, from one email that you send, and you might have a loyal customer at the end of the email, putting an ROI that, it's kind of like abstract because now.
Right,
that,
well, that's what I'm asking.
So you got to look at sales.
How did you get from $1?
Well, you got to look at,
$43,
to me, you should look at, absolutely.
Not so much the methodology, but the amount.
Well, you should look at sales, like look at your demographic.
Putting everything else into that, whatever time, labor.
No, absolutely. You look at the
costs.
demographic, what are your targets, what is your intent? Your intent when you send an email is to get someone and drive them from the digital funnel, from discover early stages of absorbing and learning about your company, and then start executing in a transactional way what that company value proposition is. Just to close the loop on the example of J.Crew, it's the way I say it's abstract is the fact that that first email subscription that I actually wasn't in the store, I now consume J.Crew products for the past 10 years. So if you look at my subscription level and spending for every single email that they send me, with sales, it's flush sales for a day, it's tremendous value of absorbing a monetary way from a customer perspective. So you look at the demographic, you look what your intent is for that email, and then definitely I recommend to work with sales capabilities to understand from a sales cycle what is the tail and the duration of the life cycle.
Joe, you were not.
Yeah, I totally, by the way, agree with Rodney, and I think email, even though it's old, has adapted very well to all the new technologies with time. And I'm talking about like HTML, mobile, responsiveness. Somehow email, even though it's so simple, but by its nature, it's very easy to use, and it serves very well both sides, the client and the merchant. So the communication via email is easy, it's virtually free. If you compare it to other medias, to performance advertising, by its nature, will go. The cost of this media is super high, and will eventually, almost will take all the profit from the first sale. And then it's all about nurturing and long-term relationship with the customer to try to make this even like first sale profitable, which usually it's not because of the cost of media. And then email serves you really, really well.
Sharon, do you?
Yeah, so
Well, you said it's virtually free.
it's definitely costs us some money. I'm coming from the publisher side.
So I'm just going to say something you told me.
Yeah,
which is, and one of the reasons that we asked you to be here was because you guys, as a publisher, have turned email into one of your biggest tools. You went from a list of virtually 0 to more than 400,000 in 520 now in about 5 minutes. So.
Yeah, 5 minutes exactly. No, we started out, trying to
But you send a
scale
lot.
a website.
You send what,
About
millions a week, right?
Yeah, we send about 6 to 8 million emails a month.
A month, I'm sorry.
A month. But we have found that we were pretty reluctant going back to the email newsletter as the primary focus because we were trying to do what everyone else was doing, which was scaling the web. But because we're not creating 100 pieces of content journalism, we found that catering directly to and kind of going directly to our core readership a few times a week was a better guarantee of getting eyeballs on those stories. Because I think, and this has something to do with it, the type of content also is not news or food or gossip, it's travel, so it's not a primary, I need to have it now kind of reading material. So it's like, how do we get to think about travel on a daily basis?
And you're still using email in sort of that traditional publisher way.
We are.
Because the sort of the zeitgeist has been somewhat morphing into, if you do content, you gotta push it out and distribute it everywhere, and you can't drive people to your website anymore. That's old thinking. You say that's not old thinking. You use email.
We use email, and I think, now that we are sending out so many emails and price has become a factor for us, we are segmenting our list more, sending a particular piece of email to people who want it at specific times of day or the week. And we're also, we collect a lot of information from those people, but we find that our highest rated members who are opening the emails several times a week, and we know that they're coming back and again, we can go to the survey questions, we can kind of test out different market products that we have, and we can guarantee a much better return.
You reach to those people like 3 times a week. Right?
Mm-hmm.
How much it would cost you to reach out to them through other medias 3 times a week?
Mm-hmm.
You get to their inbox and get their attention. When you open the email, you have 100% attention of the person.
Right.
That's what's so beautiful about email.
Yeah.
When I see like ads, when I'm surfing, you have very little of my attention.
Mm-hmm.
Email, if I decide to open it, okay, that's about open rate. But if I decide to open it, you have my full attention.
Exactly.
And you have also the real estate, for banners, text, and other.
Exactly, because we also, we do some passive advertising on the website, and we do custom dedicators through our newsletters, and we can demand a much higher CPM for that, and know that by crafting a message that our readers want to see, we can determine that.
You're gonna jump in on that.
Yeah, no, I just about delivery. I caution about that mentality because I feel like, your user base, the people that you have their contact information in your database is so valuable, and you want to make sure that you're not abusing. Thinking of email as always being free, because if you abuse that database and you lose them forever, and it's much harder to gain people than it is to continue investing in the people that you have. So that's why.
Well, should we talk about specific costs for a sec? Because we've talked about a few kinds of costs here, right? And I know, Cassie, you may have very strong feelings about some of these things, but what does it cost to get a subscriber? What does it cost to send an email? We can do per million, per 10,000, whatever it is. What's the cost you should expect?
Yeah.
What are some of those hard numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I would absolutely echo the point around the opportunity cost of email, what that looks like. And going back to your J. Crew example, I was at a dinner recently with someone from their analytics team, and they said they actually have a metric that they look at now that they call OOPS, which is opt-outs per sale, right? Because there's a trade-off metric of, great, we were able to drive all these conversions, but at what expense? Because the average numbers in terms of like cost to acquire versus cost to retain is that it's 6 to 7 times more expensive to acquire than to retain the customers you already have. And so, I think you can get into the CPMs of sending email. It's a pure play economy of scale business, right? So it's the incentives are not aligned with brands, because if you're an ESP and you're charging on a CPM basis, you make more money the more emails that your clients send, which actually can be counterproductive to the success of their business. To your point, I think smarter segmentation is a huge part of that.
And I think
What is the cost? What are some hard numbers that you can give?
It really varies, right? So, we work with clients on the small range would be sending 50 million emails a year.
Is an e-commerce?
I would say 50% commerce, 50% media, right? But we have commerce companies that send over 1 billion emails a year, right? And so if you're in the range of sending 1 billion plus emails, right, then you're going to have a really competitive CPM. That CPM might be, somewhere in the 20-something cent range, right? But the challenge
in this
is,
case, but by CPM, just to be clear,
yes.
you mean cost per 1,000 emails sent. Okay.
Yeah.
So not
But
like an
I think, to
advertising.
be honest, a lot of platforms, you're gonna see them move away from that, right? And to be honest, like, we actually don't charge on a pure play CPM. The challenge is marketers all back pricing into a CPM. But like, if you look at Adobe's and other solutions out there, like, the active user approach, I think, is gonna be more of what we see, because it's more aligned with where marketing teams are going around
So how do you measure,
retain.
what's an active user?
So for us, we would look at it as anyone who had either visited a website, opened an email, opened a mobile app, purchased in the last year,
You'll charge on that basis.
depending on the product. Yeah.
So how much, if I'm generally using your
Yeah.
service, how much can I expect to pay for what?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say, like, it's tough to say, right? Like, for core email alone, for a brand that's sending 100 million emails a year for us, that's probably someone who's paying like $60,000 to $70,000 a year, like ballpark. It just depends. There's a lot of other factors that go into it. I think honestly, just pricing on a CPM is a danger zone. Because and I'll tell you why I say that. There are solutions out there, and I don't think we have anyone from, I guess, the grid here, but that are just pipes, right? And so if you're just using a pipe, then you're going to have a commodity CPM, right? If you're trying to put some intelligence in the email, if you're doing personalized sends, et cetera, that's going to come at a premium cost, so that CPM is going to go up. So for us, a lot of it is, how is the customer using the platform, what components of it are they using, et cetera.
Well, you had talked about that a bit, Joe. Like you said, that the thing that makes email not old is the fact that there's new stuff that can be hooked into it. And somebody, I think it might have been you, Cassie, when you emailed me back, you talked about programmatic in email, which to me it almost sounds like an oxymoron. But that's what my mom called me, you oxymoron. But or anyone really, what's some of the stuff?
Well, I was actually
What's the stuff that improves email? What are the things that hooks in?
The person I was talking to earlier was Cassie, and so she was actually telling me what that sparked was, there is so much more potential now.
Like what specifically? What's assume I'm somebody who's like looking to actually like go in there and manage the stuff. What should I go get?
From the smallest level, you've got like MailChimp and I don't know who else is in that free kind of
Custom
or
contact.
very constant contact.
Constant contact.
You've got kind of those low guys, but even there, it's not just a pipe anymore. I think that's kind of the point, that they're trying to add intelligence, maybe not nearly as much as a sale through, obviously, but they're trying to add some intelligence. They're adding tools. They're giving them, more templates and better
What
ways
kind of
to
tools?
use
Like
them.
what kind of tools do I want to look for? Like what are the?
I would love to tell you
options?
I know the answer to that. I would say it could be Cassie or someone else, but
Anyone.
Well, like let's say something, Marketo, for example, which is a end-to-end marketing automation tool that email is a big component of it, which ties back to your comment about analytics. So when the hot topic of this conversation from a digital ecosystem is email, which also ties back to the editorial component of it. When you look at the analytics portion of how your email is behaving, you gotta look, you need to go to your 3,000-foot view and understand what is that journey from an email logic looks like. Because if you send too little, you potentially lose the customer. If you just acquire one, you send too much, you can lose the customer. So what is that right mix? And I think the content marketing area is becoming more and more relevant, not only for email, but everything in digital. How do you keep people engaged and interested in manipulating or consuming that specific driver?
Rodney, let's say this. I was managing email campaigns in 2006, 2007. The things you said were basically true then.
Yeah.
You got to be careful how many you send, but so what's additive now that makes email new again, fresh, or
One thing we haven't talked about is the importance of email address as an identifier for consumers as well too. I think that's something that people forget about a lot. Like, you get an app on your phone, they ask you to fork over your email address. You build lookalike modeling on Facebook or Google, your email address is the root of that. And I think one of the really interesting powers of email is that, we were trading notes last night, the average open rates are still like 13 to 15%, right? They're not particularly high, but it's the same people who are opening your emails over and over again who are engaging. And if you can take those people and leverage that retention data to optimize new customer acquisition, you're gonna have a healthier business. And so I think that's a really interesting application now is, okay, at the end of the day, like, it's still email address. It might be a hash of the email address, it could be a number of different things, but that is like the root building block for how people are extending out into other parts of the ecosystem.
So things haven't changed that much from sort of a technological or, you know, operational perspective?
I think things have evolved. Like in remarketing, for example, we really differentiate between those newsletters blast and to the email automation. And I think we should talk more about the automation processes, because these are the area where you see maybe 10 times more ROI than the traditional newsletter. Even if the newsletter is segmented and personalized, you cannot compare it with those automated emails that go in the right timing, with the right content. It's like super personalized, and then you see the power of like I call it the new email. From simple, you know, recover abandoned cart or order follow-ups, specific product recommendation, and we see like Amazon and the big boxes are doing it for years, so professionally and so effectively. And now I think like small businesses, medium businesses have the technology, and it became affordable to do it as well.
So personalization is something, you know, that kind of intrigues me, because, you know, again, almost back, I mean, I can remember even older doing on some sort of Microsoft, I'm trying to remember exactly what we did, some sort of Microsoft Exchange server with like an Excel spreadsheet personalizing in that way, right? Like, hi, first name, I saw that you love, insert thing here. And you know, we would just keep the database and try to do that. You know, it was fairly human run, but there's more automated personalization now. Yes, like
So
there are
we can-
ways with
So today we can look at you know, purchase history, browsing history, benchmark, compare it
And
with
how do
other.
you, from an email perspective, how do you match those things in?
The data behind the scene is there already. Like the average small business already have everything online, everything in the cloud. So it became really kind of like easy to analyze, to understand the data, and then apply it to email. So there are so many companies out there today that do like email automation, but then come companies that have more. The technology became like the ground to where we actually compete.
I guess I'm trying to say in a very specific way. Conceptually, what you're saying makes perfect sense,
Yeah.
but in a very, very specific way, how much, is there really less human involvement? Meaning,
No, almost no human involved in the process.
so the email can be composed? and
Email can be
pulled from-
composed, can be data and content can be automatically, you know, pulled from the website, from databases, from other resources, plus I think the optimization itself from subject lines, the images, and I think like companies like Salesforce, for example, are doing it very well, and that's the power and the competitive advantage that businesses now can have through technology. That's the beauty of the
So I think you said you like scuba, right?
scuba diving.
So I can push a button, go scuba diving, come back, and everything is.
It's kind of, you know, in the future we'll have this, you know, one button of like make me money, and you know, AI and Intel and other, you know, databases, smart analytics will do the rest. I think now like more than half of the content are actually served automatically, and not by, you know, choosing specifically for each person the right content. It's done automatically.
So
I see.
Geraldine.
So, the question I was going to ask is, and I think you just were speaking to this, the data that you're collecting, you're collating it by just, let's say, which image gets the most click-through, rather than Dorian being interested in scuba diving and me being interested in dogs, and so kind of parsing the information that way. So is it still I mean, how detailed can it get? And like who can kind of adjust for like what are the important data points to them? For example, so I was talking earlier about how we are moving from, or we're not moving from, but we are operating right now as an editorial site, but we're adding a commerce component through travel agency. So for us, it would be great to see how many people are clicking on Australia content, and how can we send those people Australian content more often. The people who are clicking on Sri Lankan content, how do we send them that content? Is that possible on a small scale, like for this email
It
newsletter
can
size
be
of
almost
ours?
like one-to-one. It can be like the segmentation can be almost one-to-one. That's would be like the high segmentation. But yes, people who click or are interested. You really, the question is like, you want to send the people who are interested in romantic weekend, this kind of deals, and to family Orlando or whatever differently. So this kind of segmentation, you probably already do that, and this with like clicks and views and images, you can very easily do that. But with e-commerce, for example, the level of segmentation and recommendation is even more specific and more personal. People who viewed specific product, people who haven't viewed specific product or categories, people who purchased more than X times or more than lifetime value, and we can really segment automatically specific customers and even optimize it.
And I think you can actually get a lot of richness in publishing, because if you think about publishing, you have a ton of content, right? And so much of that recommendations comes from the metadata that's there, right? Just reading a story and tagging it up, right? For you're interested in scuba, you're interested in something else, which is interesting. The challenge we see between media and commerce is that in commerce, we might know 50+% of the audience. There's a higher degree of anonymous traffic in media, so then it's how do you sort of use collaborative filtering within the bin and then get to that point.
And does the automation get smarter the more you're using it?
Yeah, I think so, because I think like inevitably, like we'll talk about the filter bubble, right? Like if you recommend certain things, you're gonna push people to those categories, so you need like an element of serendipity early on, right? And then if you can get people engaged in different places, the more they engage, the higher the magnitude of that interest, and then you can complete that.
I have a different perspective from automation because you still need the human component. I have a team of digital strategists that you can't do A/B testing without having the reports coming, what is performing well, and making that human decision of asset based on the emails, like, is this headline too long, it's too short? Why a headline that has 5 words, it's performing better than one that has 12? So I think it's a combination between human and automation, and not one versus the other. Now, if you look at any company at any size, then you need to take into consideration what is the infrastructure that you have, because if you have very junior skills marketers that has not only the responsibility to write the content and use templates and deploy their marketing programs, it's completely different than a company that has an entire editorial team behind that does all that content for you, that has all the developers that can take a template and enhance that feasibility of the template. So it's case by case, but I think it's a combination between automation tools that we have today and then a human that is driving that. I'm driving the bus. That's what I use at work. It's like, who's driving the bus? Because the tools are the engine of that bus, but someone needs to be driving the bus to make sure this bus now has to turn left versus turning right today.
Say who you are.
My name is Roy Weissman from SendPulse. We're an email platform. Couple of things. I think there's 2 things. One, obviously, we're all saying the same thing about the significance of relevance, and that's what we're talking about, using technology to make the email as relevant as possible so the person will want to open it. But I think there's something no one said anything. I think it's enormous with email. The biggest frustration with advertising and marketing is distraction. We go to a website, there's 40 banner ads, an article, a picture, and then, what do I look at first? When you get an email, all you're looking at is the email. Email is a very personal and intimate communication. And what's amazing is, this is what's enormous. You talk about email being old and all this. how many advertising opportunities do you have, or ways to reach, take the word advertising, the ways to reach your consumer with no distraction?
Well, let me play contrarian.
Okay.
Nobody opens email anymore. You know, Gmail, we've taken a huge hit from Gmail because of the way they put promotions off, and a couple of the other platforms do the same thing. You know, they have the email clients, or everybody. The market is saturated, right? Like yeah, you can milk the list you have, but you know.
I just have to respond to this because it's so perfect.
Let
that
me
you
ask a
said
quick
this.
question.
Sure.
How many people here have a special email address, if you will? Like the email where you can have stuff sent that's not your real email, it's your, right? Is there anybody who doesn't have a special? Raise your hand if you, okay, so you three only have one email address.
No, but corporate, personal.
Yeah.
But you don't have sort of the,
I don't have
Yeah,
the.
you look
where
at
you,
it.
where you get your recipes and, okay. So 3 out of how many, 20, 25 have, basically real, but the rest of us have, so that's, so like I say, I was playing devil's advocate. Nobody opens email, saturated, it's hard to get people to open it, things are getting shunted off into either other folders or other email addresses. Counter it.
Two things. One, relevance. I think everybody's well aware. The more relevant, like if your website, travel, if they're interested in going to Turkey and they get an email in Turkey, they're opening that email, right? If they get an email in Cuba and they couldn't care less, they're not opening. So relevance is critical, and that gets it open. And the second thing is, our company actually is working on technology to use technology to increase the open rate. So it's perfect that you said that. But, because I think part of that is understanding how people use email, understanding when they open their email, understanding their behaviors. And I think, and of course, you're never going to get 100% open rate. It's just not possible. It doesn't happen. I saw a research statistic that said on transactional emails, only 47% of them are open, which I found amazing. I'm like, you buy something in Amazon, you get a confirmation and you want to see it. My wife says to me, I don't find that odd, I don't open that. So I thought that was crazy, but yet only 47. So we realized that getting 100% open rate is almost probably impossible. But I think improving the open rate is very possible through a combination of relevance and technology. To your point of personal involvement and technology, humans will know this isn't as relevant, fix the algorithm, whatever. But over time, we'll get better and better at it. So I think we can improve the open rate, and I think you're never going to be able to open it, but when you're on a website and there's 3 ads and a sponsorship and an article, it's the same, it's just a different parallel, but it's still got all kinds of things going on.
Is there a demographic component to this?
I'm sorry?
Is there a demographic component, meaning younger people who are basically only using their phones and more on chat type services than on email?
I think that's a very good point. Platform issues
Well,
and
no, what
age
Jonathan's
issues.
saying is okay, to put it in my devil's advocate way, young people don't open email, yeah, sure, over 35, but you know what?
I teach 20-year-olds one of the thousands of things I do, and I always love to ask questions like how many people read emails, whatever. So I asked a question that absolutely blew my mind, although I shouldn't be surprised at anything. I said, when you get a text, now let me ask the question to the room before I answer it. When you get a text, how many people consider that to be a timely thing, like a Federal Express? You got to respond. Something important, you should respond now. How many people, when they get a text, think of it as something that's timely? And most people think of it just like email, whenever. Well, I asked a room full of 20-year-olds, and not one person thought it was timely. Text to them or emails, so to your point. But I think they don't know that in business, you got to use emails. Text's too small, they're just not they're not professional. So I think there's definitely an age issue.
So you're saying that the people who are on Snapchat today are going to be on email tomorrow?
I don't think they have a choice. I think business, there's certain elements of business. Emails, you have attachments, you have things going on, you're sending a contract, you're answering questions, you're having a discussion in emails. You have Slack that throws in using the instant message platform versus an email. But I think there has to be more. People all over the world. There's virtual workers.
Yeah, it depends of what your purpose, like what's your goal. Like getting to those 13, 15, 17 years old guys through emails probably won't get you any value.
Well, I guess
because they don't have any problem. They don't purchase anything.
Well, like the thing that comes to my mind is when there are people like, you know, Nielsen or research shops that put out the graphical user demographic bar chart of television viewership, traditional television, right? And it's like, if you look at the 50 to 65-year-olds, it's 80%, you know, then the next age group is lower and lower. And then when you get into the 20s, it's like, if you want to reach the generation coming up, that thick part of the snake, as it's sometimes called, right? You wouldn't be investing in traditional television. So I think that's really the question. It's like, if you want to reach people, is email still the thing, or is it? Do we think it's kind of in decline?
I think it depends what's your goal, retention or acquisition. These are like two different channels. Acquisition, yeah, email probably is not the best media, because you need to get the person first. You need to get their email address, you know, and then you have to pay. You have other channels to bring those people to the website. But once you get them, and I think email becomes a very with the best ROI, yeah, for retain those customers. And again, I think there are like other channels with great open rate and great click rate and times on website and everything. But bottom line, you looking as, you know, what's your goal? You want to sell? Facebook, Snapchat don't sell. They bring the customers. They bring not customers. They bring, you know, viewers, I call them.
Well, I think those.
Yeah, there is no real value for a business, or at least for e-commerce online, with these
So you're saying
channels.
those tools are customer acquisition, they're driving traffic, and then people that are opting into the email list, then you can drive the relevance back to your email? Meaning that one's top of the funnel, right? One's going, you have Snapchat and Facebook are getting, particularly for a certain demographic, are getting the person through the door.
Exactly. And then filter them with
I mean, I still wonder what percentage of people under 20 is opening emails within a day. So yes, chat may be not viewed as so timely, but I still think chat feels more urgent. Certainly does to me. But I'm using email, I'm sure we all do for business. It's like email is still the primary form of communication. And I actually find when people chat me, if I don't have a personal relationship with them, I find it actually kind of intrusive. Again, that's demographic, right? But I just wonder, are we needing to think about the platform question differently as these tools like iMessage and Messenger and all these other tools that are becoming the primary platform for communication? And will people accept business in what has traditionally been a more personal?
No, I definitely agree with you that I think on a personal basis, people tend to gravitate to chat, text, whatever. That's what they're used to. And I say when they get into business, they realize they have to deal with email. But I do agree with you that it's probably very possible that people today, young people today, might use email for business because they have to, but will still be using text and chat for personal communication. So to your question, who has the other email address kind of thing, I think the other email address may become a text or a chat or whatever kind of thing. I do agree with that, because that's what they're used to. Why are they going to just give it up? And I don't think they like email. I mean, I have students that I teach online and in person. They don't like email. They hate it. And when I tell them, you know, if you email me, they email me, they don't even have their name on it. They're like, what time is this? I'm like, who are you? You know, they hate email.
Well,
So,
Erica, you know, I mean, the case is being made here that in a way, Snapchat and Facebook are top of the funnel, and that's sort of the first hit for acquisition. And what you really want to do is acquire them by having them be email and then nurture that, and that, you know, so Facebook and Snapchat are acquisition, and email is retention and, you know, adding value. So is that how you see it too?
I mean, I think that you need to look at you can't look at all channels the same. You need to think of the channel, think of not only the goal of the channel, not only the goal of what you're trying to do, but what the purposes of that channel is. You know, email may not be the best, you know, top of the funnel acquisition tool, but it can be certainly be, and that's why, you know, I think people are saying, you know, oh, email is dead, and you know, there's, you know, social is the thing, but you know, it's placing each channel at the part of the funnel that you want to place it at. and not making the generalizations of, you know, oh, everyone who's young hates email, because I think that there's, you know, a purpose for each channel, and you need to really think about that purpose before you actually try and use it. It's like when people, you know, have a piece of content and then they just blast it out at every single channel possible. It's not effective. You need to think of each channel, what's the best use for being able to promote this piece of content, and, you know, not just trying to blast it out everywhere, because then you're basically reducing the effectiveness of all of your channels.
I was really surprised that, you know, I mean, speaking of, I mean, younger at least, I mean, you had, you know, the Daily Skim got a lot of, and, you know, rose really quickly and then got bought, you know, in a pretty significant way. And then Zoe Deschanel, I think that's her name, the one from New Girl TV show, launched Hello Giggles, and Lena Dunham did her Lenny Letter, right? And those got, I mean, those last two had obviously celebrity names, which helped, but you know, that's one acquisition strategy. But Geraldine, you actually, you know, were very on the ground involved in building your list. So, you know, can you walk us through in a sort of case study way, like what did you do? How did you go from 0 to 520,000, and how long did it actually take?
Yeah, so my partner and I spent many years working at Daily Candy, which was a newsletter. So as I mentioned before, when we started Fathom as a website, we were actually very reluctant to go the newsletter route because we thought it was dying, literally dying hard, and we were burnt out by newsletters. But we still wanted to do things in that kind of magical Daily Candy way, which was all graphic. So we spent $0 on marketing and did a very grassroots, on the ground campaign to kind of encourage people to sign up through word of mouth and speaking engagements, and also going directly to the industry and having lots and lots of sit down meetings with other kind of microphones, you know, in the PR travel business, being like, this is what we're doing, get the word out there. And so we were, and you know, as I said in my little interview with you, the voice was really the major thing that we were focusing on. It was like, build a voice that's really specific, and then people will come, they will trust it, and we'll be able to deliver things to them. We knew we needed to have email, but we waited a little while before launching it. And I think we had 340 people on the email list to start.
And this was when?
In 2012. Yeah, maybe late 2011. And we, you know, did a pretty active campaign. It was like, looked like it just an email from friends, and I think that was probably part of the main thing. It was like signed directly by us. There was no design element to it at all. We switched later to MailChimp that just used their version of the templates. And it wasn't until probably about 2 years ago that we decided what we need to do is figure out a way to channel the website through the newsletter. And what we did was we created a series of templates that were customized that looked very much like different segments of the website. And this was to help people familiarize themselves with what we actually deliver. And what, you know, because people think we're doing one thing when we're actually doing a ton of things.
What are you doing?
So we are travel intelligence on the consumer side. So we help people figure out where they're going through storytelling. These are like first-person, long format itineraries, stories, but also trip planning information, tips, tricks, hacks, videos on how to pack well, the whole gamut. So it's really practical plus inspirational. And in some cases, you can also book there. And so we wanted to be able to let people know that this is what was happening. Obviously, it's not super newsy. So if you don't have vacation coming, you might think, I don't really need to look at this right now. So we were also trying to figure out, how do we bring travel into the everyday? So I think building a customized template was really a big deal for us. And we saw that
building a plus or minus template?
Customized template.
Custom, I'm sorry.
Yeah, making it feel like the Fathom website in the newsletter. We saw that people were opening up the newsletter more than once, and also our click-through rates increased. We also, you know, figured out that images were really a big deal. Just drove a ton more traffic, so we increased the size greatly of the images, and we started segmenting the list by.
And that actually runs counter to some counsel on email, right?
Oh, like not having
Like, don't.
big images
Don't
moved
have
down.
big images, right, don't have big images, they'll get caught in the filters, some clients won't let them through, they'll overload device, whatever.
Yeah.
Don't have.
We kind of scaled down the amount of images in a piece, so we would focus like just on romantic getaways, and that would be like one big, very immersive image. But I think, speaking to the themes earlier, it's like we were trying to create a very immersive, inspirational like hit when you open your inbox, so that we really did stand out. And then we worked a lot on newsletter swaps, which were kind of getting green lights or thumbs up from people, other brands that we liked and cared about, to get them to promote us, and we promoted them. And that gave us a big hit because unlike just marketing to like-minded, readers through Facebook, say, it was almost like getting a personal recommendation. So it kind of followed that cult, like pass it on through friends kind of idea. That worked really well for us. And then we were one of the first, at least in our industry, that did contests, which are good and bad. But when we started doing them, we chose our partners very, very carefully, created all of the assets, and put together the contest as well. And then we were able to generate also a lot of.
And quickly, what's the bad?
Well, the bad is that once there are certain people who really only care about entering contests, and they don't really care about anything else. And if you over index and just get those people on your list, then they're not really opening, and so you kind of have to purge them.
So you put those contests on other websites, and they would sign up on those other websites, or you drive
We
them?
would only do it through email.
Okay.
So we would do contests with just our readers.
Oh,
and
just your own readers.
So we'd have just our readers, and then we would use, we would use some kind of amplification, like if you invite your friend, you get entered in again. Then we would pair up with a media company, let's say another media company like Goop, like-minded media company, and we would both send it out to our list, and then we would share all the email addresses.
Did you see any difference between the people that signed up from your readership versus Goop's or whoever?
So I think
Goop
that
is such that's a great name. I was gonna say
Goop.
something.
We, I think.
What is Goop Travel?
Goop is Gwyneth Paltrow's email newsletter.
Love it.
It's
So it's about strange vegetarianism?
Mhm.
definitely
Is that what it is?
conscious
Awesome.
uncoupling.
Conscious what?
Conscious uncoupling.
I'm sorry. Gwyneth and I have a long history, but I never asked her about that.
Yeah, it was kind of a precursor to, I would say, like probably what Lena Dunham and
Okay.
like all those
Yeah.
ladies are doing. So, but if it's a like-minded, we found that if it's a very like-minded brand but also digital, then they get it, they subscribe, retention rate is great, and they become loyal readers. If it is something like Marie Claire, which is a readership that's mostly via magazine, they don't really care about the newsletter component as much. The retention rate is much lower. So I think, whenever it
And
comes
then
to slaps or
will you
contests.
segment those Marie Claire people off and eventually purge them from your list?
Sometimes.
So depending on
Sometimes depends.
So it's not just based on they're not opening, or it's you'll actually keep them aside.
Yeah, we segment everyone separately that we do a contest list, but then we also have groups together. So we'll monitor them for 6 months, a year, sometimes a year and a half, and then see, okay, this contest actually, we had a 60% retention rate of everyone who entered. That's great. And maybe it's 40,000 names, and then for another it was like, this was a 28%. Let's keep them on and see what's happening, and then eventually we'll take them off the list.
So focus on the content, immersive, emotional hit. Make sure it matches your brand. Swaps from big brands, contests, but be careful.
Be very careful.
Anything else?
I think one beautiful thing that
Yeah.
she said, people are opening the same email again and again. Like they use the email as kind of their
Almost like a bookmark.
a gate to the website. They keep
Yeah.
the email in the inbox and keep going there in order to get to different pages on the website. Right?
Yeah, and I feel like that's been probably the biggest change that we made in the way that we craft our emails. Is we used to really make it just a direct reflection of whatever was going on the site. Now we really do it thematically, so that if you are thinking, one day I want to go to Bhutan, then our Bhutan email has a little bit of everything that we offer, the practical, the inspirational, the deal, the contest, whatever. You can kind of keep that and refer to it. So we're really kind of assuming people are not really going to go to our website otherwise to find this information on their own. And this is their one opportunity to do so. So we try to really pack it in.
See, the second thing is that they were able to monitor that. They know that those people came from the email, right? So,
Right.
and they know that people opened the email more than one time. They know that they came to the website through a specific campaign. So email is a media that's very easy to monitor.
And what do you use for your email?
We're using MailChimp right now. And I know we're kind of in a tough place because we love, and we talked to Sandra before, it's a little bit pricey for us, even though we're kind of desperate for that data. But because MailChimp has, I'd say in the last 12 months, have really added a lot of these extra things you could do more A/B testing by time and by subject line in ways that you weren't able to do a couple of months ago. You know, it still kind of suits our needs.
Do you find, I mean, I've, been in and out of MailChimp over the years, and I find that, I do use some of that stuff. They've added capabilities to get into your web analytics better than it used to be, as have other platforms. But I feel mixed about how useful that is. Sometimes I feel like I don't, once I get the click through in the segment, I stay in Google Analytics or what, Adobe or whatever, and I don't, I guess I'm saying, I'm not always sure that that email interrelated with these other, like a couple of platforms have promised me to tell me how my email and my social work together, and I have never been satisfied with that. I've never really felt like, I got real.
Under reporting, or just the data isn't?
The data just isn't useful. It tells me, it looks like this person interacted with something on Facebook, and I also have their email address, but.
Then you don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, or I try something and it doesn't necessarily add any. That's been my experience.
Yeah.
But it might just be that I'm not good at it, or I don't know. I'm asking the question, like, what is a best practice? I mean, first of all, did you go through all the things that you did to build your list? The main things, the important things you did to build your list.
Yes, it was like word of mouth, like on the ground grassroots stuff, swaps, contests, and then we did increase the amount of emails that we sent, and
meaning the frequency, or?
The frequency. We went from 1 to 3 times a week, and then also thematic newsletters and customized templates of our own. Yeah.
So, but I mean, this question for everybody, right? Like this promise of linkages among social and email and web analytics, and I find it sometimes useful, but marginally, not as much as the promise.
I think we're going to an era right now that before the rationale of low performance or lack of understanding of a specific channel used to be we have data paralysis analysis. We have that now, and now we have tool paralysis as well. There's way too many tools outside in the market that you can build a foundation. I want to bring the point that Erica brought in regards to every channel perform well, but you have to understand what your customer needs are and how do you build a list. Like one thing that you brought it up about building the list is in the statement that people know open email. I not necessarily agree with that open statement, because if you understand your customer and you, from an acquisition perspective, the way we do acquisition, we have these multiple web pages and campaigns that we have them to subscribe. Kind of sort of the conversation that we're having about what is the incentive for someone to subscribe, because if you acquire the list by putting a well-defined content web ecosystem and they subscribe via an incentive or via good content, most likely at the beginning stage of that journey, they're gonna open your email. Now, if you're talking about buying wide list that we don't understand what the customers are, and then you're just throwing money away. So I want to defer the conversation to go back to the root of understanding the customer, and then when you understand the customer, what's the channel? Like the millennials, are they going to open email? We don't know. But if you do a cool that you describe, Erica described, if you understand their behaviors, if it's a social media behavior, and then you do a good social media campaign, and then give them within that campaign an incentive for them to subscribe the email, if they're really passionate about that content, they're going to subscribe, and then the first time that you trigger send the email, most likely they're going to open that email. But then what you have to do is from the e-nurture perspective, how do you nurture them? Because then you're going to have to take the data and the analytics engine behind and understand drop-offs, subscription level, clicks, and programs that you did about refer a friend and so on and so forth. So I think we need to step back and think about the root of what is that list looks like. How do you get the list from? Because if you're doing marketing programs that you are having to subscribe for that list is yours, you build it versus buying a list from someone that doesn't understand what your clients and your customer behaviors are or what you're trying to convey from a marketing perspective. Throw a lot of things to think about, but
I think
I'll go
I'd
back
like to
to
throw
the
one thing.
customer level.
I know I said before, I think younger people tend to gravitate to text because they're used to it. Email, they'll have to use for business. But I also think, this, for all the things you just said, I think if we're going to get younger people to start using email more, it's a behavioral change. And obviously if they go to work and they start using email at work all the time, the question is going to become whether they actually put their email on their phone, which I think is huge, because a lot of them don't even, I've had students, you send them an email, they don't even see it. They're like, oh, I don't check my email very often. Now, they're 20, 22, it's a big difference, their behaviors will change as they get more experience. But I think the one disconnect is how are we going to get people who've been brought up on text and Snapchat to change their personal behavior to put their email on their phone? Because if they don't have their email on their phone, they're not checking it.
But I would make actually a slightly different point, which is if I look at the marketing programs that I think are most effective in terms of performance, it's because they're not email teams, they're CRM teams. They're focused on the customer. And I think, like, this is a controversial statement, but I think things like email engagement open rates can actually be red herring metrics. Like, at the end of the day, it's not about the channel, it's about the customer, right? And we struggle with this at our company all the time because I was chatting with some people earlier, like chatbots. If you had told me 2 years ago some of our clients would come to us asking about chatbot integrations, I would have told you you lost your mind, right? But it's happening because they're going after that demographic, and we can't sort of try to force something that's uncomfortable for some of those segments if it's not going to work. We have to figure out, well, how do we reach the customer with the right message in the right channel at the right time, even if it's not email, right? And I think so much of that, and I think what has been at the heart of a lot of the comments, and I love what Geraldine was saying about looking at sort of the longitudinal behavior of contest people, like that I think is like at the core of the success of these marketing programs, is looking at cohorts, looking at what they do over time, and then to your point around integrating data, you cut the data that way. So, you can look at someone's opt-out rate over time and cut it by, well, what do we know about their Facebook profile, or what do we know about them in these other areas? But I think it's less about just channel-specific metrics and more about your groups of customers and how you best keep them engaged with your brand.
So I'm a publisher too. I'll just speak up since I'll represent.
Say
Help
your
represent.
name.
Michelle Maddock. I own SheFinds.com. We have about 1 million person list and about 300,000 60-day active. You've been in my office before.
How many would you say you send in a month?
We send 2 a day, at
So-
least.
So that's millions. A month.
Yeah. So and it's our number 1 source of traffic. Number 2 is Pinterest. So that's what's the valuable thing. But I would say, like, we've tried some of so we are a shopping women's lifestyle site. I would say, though, the shopping element gets probably the least amount of traffic. Like, it's the Kardashian element that gets the most amount of traffic if we do something gossipy. So there is still something there about, like, people don't know what they want. Because we tried to do some of the things with Sale Through, we tried to do, like, oh, these people really like boots. And then all of a sudden they'd start getting emails with all boots. And people were like, I don't need so many boots. It's like being when you're chased around the web from those retargeting ads. It becomes kind of, how are you going to discover anything? And, I already don't want those boots. I already looked at them. So but it's been really hard to like try to figure out how do you get the people that the high value people that you want, because I think it's really, we're competing with everything. I mean, headlines almost have to be like they're on Facebook. It's like it's an open instead of a click. I mean, it's both, but you have to like almost I don't want to say clickbait because we actually do deliver, but it has to be like kind of very shocking to get people to open.
Well, open rates is a thing. Like, what are the best practices then? What are the, we had one recently that mystified us. Same list, random samples, same list, same time of day, weekday, business day, open rate 13% one day, 8% the next, click-through rates vary, it's, sometimes it's out of your control, you don't know, but what are the things you find that work well?
I would say play the long game. Customer relationship needs to be built over time. It's all about trust, and the first few, don't buy list, don't spam your customer, respect their time and their inbox, and build a good relationship. It's like the number one suggestion and tip I can give to any marketer. Trying to plus give those baits on the subject line. It's cool. It works for one, twice. After that, you're gonna risk by unsubscribe or just mark as spam.
Well, that's a theory. Let's
Yeah,
point. That's a
exactly.
theory.
It's
So
a theory. No,
I would say I think
that's
this is
mine.
the culture that people are now used to seeing things like, if I can put like 5 boots for your winter wardrobe, snooze. Like, you won't believe what Kim Kardashian's hair looks like now. Like, that's an open. So, I mean, yeah, we can all talk about like, manage your customer and stuff like that.
But that's
like,
also the nature of what you guys
Right,
are
what we do.
providing.
But let
So
me
it's
tell you,
not-
I mean,
that's not abnormal, I don't think, right?
So, I mean, maybe, I don't know, but like, who's doing it well then? Who's doing it well? I mean, it used to be Daily Candy, which was the first. I guess the Skim is
Yeah.
doing well, although they're private. I don't really know how they're doing. So, I mean, as it gets bigger, we all know the open rates and the click-through rates fall. So, because it's not as targeted.
Yeah, I think one interesting way to cut that data, and this goes for not only opens and clicks, but opt-outs, et cetera, like, we'll see a lot of times customers will come in and they'll say, okay, my open rate's pretty good against the benchmark, but one metric we try to get them to look at is when people subscribe, what is that group's open rate in their first 30 days getting the email, 60 days, 90 days, and what does the attrition look like? Because inevitably, like, if your open rates could look fine, but when you dig in on that data, you might see that there's a massive drop off after day 30, or that might vary by source of where you acquired them as well too. So I think it's to be really, really delicate with just the campaign metrics, because a lot of times they can be obscuring either a problem or something really good beneath the surface can be happening as well too. And a lot of times our customers will come in and say, oh, I have a really big opt-out problem. When we dig in, it's actually not an opt-out problem. It's when you look at the cohort behavior, it's one particular source. So we had a client who recently started advertising on TV, and they thought they had this major problem. It just turned out they were getting some traffic from TV that wasn't great, but it wasn't indicative of the whole email program.
Well, I think that's to Geraldine's point about Mary Claire. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of times the print people, they've bought lists. I don't know where they're coming from. But, like, those are a lot of times don't. And we keep records. There's also, there's one other company, if you want to build your list, that for these co-registrations, it's called Dojo Mojo. It's like the newest thing. All the publishers are on it.
We used to use Dojo Mojo, but we really like Viral Sweep, which gives you the opportunity to add in social features. So if you were going to do a co-registration, you could say, if you kind of tweet this out, or if you add this Facebook link, it gives you the option to do so. If you sign up for your Instagram feed or enter it again, something like that, and it collates all that information for you.
I think they use them too.
I'd say one of the best practices that we use is looking at the logic network of email, the time that storytelling journey with the stage of the funnel. So when you have someone that's brand new and is on the discovery learn kind of process within your organization and business value proposition, you tie a specific number of emails that is dedicated to that. Then you look at the behavior. Okay, so if I send trigger emails for an early learn and discover, and we have them going through the funnel, the next sequence of emails most likely needs to push them down the funnel. There's going to be like try and buy. And then that's important to your point, because that's what's gonna take you from preventing large amount of bounce rates if you're coordinating well that journey. So that's something that we have used successfully. And you know, the templates are the templates, the medium is the medium, the content is the content. But I'll go back to understanding a customer, because like some of our customers are CIOs and CEOs. We know from a time frame during the day, they're not opening emails, they're working. So most likely it's going to be post-business hours. If we have, for example, a CIO that wants to learn how to transform, I'm going to use a bank CIO, for example, that wants to do a digital transformation within their enterprise level. If we are using triggers like discover and learn, the next most likely step for him to continue that conversation is having him, or not necessarily him, but someone else within his ecosystem, like an IT architect, that's going to now try the product. So you got to monitor, like, what is that journey looks like, because
And
you don't understand.
know that.
Huh?
You'll track.
We'll track, yes. There's a tradition like Convertro.
Those two people are
Yes,
related.
like Convertro from AOL is a tool that is a pure attribution tool. So you can go in from a marketing perspective, digital marketing perspective, you can understand where that customer are coming from and where to throw that customers next in their path. But
What scale do you need to be able to measure those things? Like what size of a list or like size of business you need to be at in order to take advantage of those metrics?
My recommendation, well, it's two type of instances here, because the company that I work for, we have a large, it's on the billions in terms of that listing and what it looks like. We have about 20 million web pages out of the domain ecosystem. But so from that tool paralysis that everyone is going through today, not knowing what to do or what to use, what works best, what not works best, look at company size and the infrastructure, and trying to do a research and assessment of what is the best tool that supply immediate return from the infrastructure that you have. If you, like for example, Uniconine is one of our products, that's for enterprise level kind of organization. You're going to need a highly skilled individuals from marketing and technical side that understanding SQL to define segmentation. But if you're a small company, you can go for tools like Marketo or things that are more UX interface that is easy to drag and drop and build segmentation. So it varies case by case. But I would say definitely my recommendation, I go through that every day. Like I'm doing research, I'm trying to assess what's the latest and greatest tool, and what is the value of that tool based on the ecosystem that I have to deploy, because it is becoming like, with the API economy and the ability of developers today create tools and deploy, provision those tools, we have on a daily basis new tools coming up and emerging that if you don't understand what your enterprise level needs to go to the next level, you could easily purchase the wrong tool and not be successful at it.
I have a question about goals. So it seems like we're kind of having a lot of this conversation without a discussion about what the goal of each marketer is necessarily. So Geraldine's goal, like what is your goal when it comes to, how do you
We've got a little less than 5 minutes
okay,
left,
so I'll be quick.
so no, let's do it, yeah.
How do you determine the value after 3 years, let's say? How do you, is it how many times they opened, how many articles they looked at, how many times they clicked through, how many times they saw an ad, and then maybe Casey, like for a retailer, are they looking at it, over 1 year, over 3 years, over the first 6 months? Like, how do you determine, or how are the different companies determining the value? And I think that would instruct then whether you do something with a sensational subject line because you just need them to do this every time, or you send them exactly what they might want at that moment and not make it sensational because you just need them to buy a product or not, and they're not going to buy something they're not interested in, so they'll just move on.
Yeah. So we don't have a product that we're selling in the way that Michelle is. So for
Right.
us, it's advertising. If it's custom, dedicated ad, then yeah, then it's when we do that open it there. For our site, the number is engagement that's really important for a lot of our clients. And then probably for ego, it's just open and click. But yeah, it's an engagement on our site page, multiple pages, and then for advertising, it's going to be that click through.
So like for you, it's really important to really nurture, to not let that person off the list, but also you need them to open it as often as you can get them to open it.
Yeah.
And then Casey, I'm just curious, like for for the kind of average commerce company, what are they trying to do?
So I'll tell you my desired state and then the
Yeah,
reality of what we
yeah.
see. I think the desired state is that they would look at lifetime value of customers,
Yeah.
right? And that they would
Me too.
have a payback period on what they're looking at. The reality is there's short-term pressures in the business to drive revenue, right?
Right.
And we talk to teams all the time who are thoughtful and deliberate around holdout groups and things like that, and then it's the end of the year and the number is not where it needs to be, and the CEO says, well, can't we just run a sale, right?
Right.
And I think that's the challenge. I think it's still revenue, and I think I now say, like, it's not even about measuring lifetime value. I'll be happy if a client is managing lifetime value.
Right.
Like, they don't have to be scientific about it, but just thinking about it in some way in the background.
Any last comments to sum it up? We've talked about a lot. We talked a little about cadence, but we didn't get into that, and so if we can keep having those discussions, I hope we will. But yeah, just one quick.
Yeah, I was going to
sum
say, the
up.
one thing we didn't get into, which would be, it's an interesting thought, is we see all these other ways, communications being deployed. We talked about Snapchat and all that. We also have Slack. A lot of people using Slack. So the interesting question is going to be, what happens, and then a lot of people use mobile phones, on integration. Is it going to be eventually we send an email and I get it in Slack and you get it in Snapchat and she gets it in something else? I mean, I don't know if obviously not going to answer that this second, but I think it's definitely something, the elephant in the room kind of thing, because right now we still see email as this linear thing, you send an email. But we see so many people getting, I looked up a voice over IP service, Dialpad or something. They deliver the phone service on anything you want. So when you open the refrigerator, your milk carton's talking. So I think that's talking about the future.
So what's the one thing you'd like to have that you don't today? Like, if what would you like to see? What if I could have a magic box and could give it to you, or somebody else had it, what would be the thing?
I know. Can I answer
$100
that?
million.
Of course.
I wish there was some an AI, like we used to be with sales through, but it was so much data and paying so much money like that it wasn't. I had nobody to analyze the data as a small business. Like it's like overwhelming. So I wish there was some kind of AI that would be like, do this. Your people have done like. Putting it out right now, even now I'm with Boom Train, and it's like we have to look at segments, and I have to hire a consultant to run the cohorts, and like, it's just.
We hear that all the time.
Yeah, it's too much.
Every event we go to, it's like, great. There's tons of BI platforms. There's tons of charts. There's tons of data.
Mhm.
We need the insight of the data.
Yeah, give me an AI that tells me what to do.
Yeah.
And I think faster way to be able to understand the data, like and segment your customers. If I can get the customer and understand immediately where to start with and not start A/B testing, because now A/B testing, this is like one of the best ways to to find out what to do. If I could find out faster how to approach each customer, that would be like my number one.
So, Eli, we're
Yeah.
about time. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. So, all right. So, if you have any questions, if you're shy, you want to meet someone, let me know. I'll be happy to make the intro. I will send out emails to whoever, for all contact information as well. I want to thank Dorian for moderating the panel, the participants for coming. I know it's a little chilly out. At least it's not raining. That's a good thing. And I want to thank Industry Index as well. We look forward to a great 2017 with them. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.